Mark, can you hear me?
Yes.
Mark Burton, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
I see. Why is nothing coming through? Yeah, it does, but I didn't hear anything. Mark, we need to swear you in before the meeting starts. It's possible you could check your microphone settings. If you've tried to respond, we haven't heard anything here in the chamber.
This is Charlene Topfest. Can you hear me? Because I can hear Mark.
Charlene's trying to talk too.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, Mark.
Oh, hello, Charlene. Let's see here.
They can't hear us. I don't know why. Oh, text you.
Mark, we're still not getting anything over here. Can you try your microphone?
Yes, let's see here. Can you hear me now? This is Mark. Can you hear me?
Hey, Mark, we can hear you loud and clear. If you're
Great.
ready, I'm going to go ahead and swear you in so we can start the meeting with all the commissioners present. If you could please repeat after me. I, Mark Burton,
I, Mark Burton,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the laws of the state of Alaska,
the laws of the state of Alaska,
and the laws and ordinances of the city of Soldotna,
and the laws and the ordinances of the city of Soldotna,
and that I will honestly, faithfully, and impartially
that I will honestly, faithfully, and impartially
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
discharge the duties. Say that again.
Discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Burton. You are sworn in.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, everybody. I'd like to call the February 7th, 2024 Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty.
Please call the roll.
Anderson.
Here.
Burton.
Here.
Murray.
Here.
Smithwick Alley.
Here.
Taupfest.
Here.
Turner.
Here.
Vodla.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. I'll just make a note that City Clerk Justin Dabble is staffing this meeting. Thank you. Justin, our associate planner, is out sick. So are there any changes to the agenda? Any objections to approving the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. For our Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of January 3rd, are there any changes to the minutes? Any objections to approving the minutes? Hearing none, the minutes for the PZ meeting of January 3rd are approved. Moving on to public hearings. Resolution PZ 2024-006, granting a conditional use permit for the repair of the Soldotna Wastewater Treatment Facility outfall pipe at 328 Porcupine Court. May I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve resolution PZ 2024-006, granting a conditional use permit for the repair of the Soldotna Wastewater Treatment Facility outfall pipe at 328 Porcupine Court.
All right, thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
Thanks. May we have the staff report?
Thank you. So this item is a resolution to grant a conditional use permit for the repair of the Soldotna Wastewater Treatment Facility outfall pipe near 328 Porcupine Court. The applicant is the city of Soldotna. The location is, the work will be done in a 50-foot right-of-way that extends from the river towards Porcupine Court and then connects to the waste treatment facility. Your, in your packet, figure 1 shows the utility line within that right-of-way. The project is located within the Kenai River Overlay District and does require a conditional use permit. The outfall pipe and the manhole have to be repaired. The pipe itself was installed in 1972 and it partially collapsed in the spring of 23. That pipe has caused water to back up and overflow to the associated manhole. And as a result of the overflowage, then effluent sensor inaccurately measures the amount of effluent discharged into the river. The city needs accurate measurements of the effluent in order to meet the wastewater outfall permitting requirements of Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation. This project also will extend into the Kenai River itself, where additional permitting from the Kenai Peninsula Borough, Alaska Department of Fish and Game, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers will be required. Permits have been applied for, and it's my understanding that the Corps of Engineers issued their permit today. The wastewater treatment plant itself is located in institutional zoning, but the work, again, is going to be completed in a right-of-way, which is unzoned. What we did is, in looking at zoning standards, we looked at those standards from the institutional district. Specifically, the work within the Kenai River Overlay District includes clearing of vegetation, excavation, the installation of a temporary cofferdam system, demolition of the existing manhole, and demolition of the 21-inch corrugated metal pipe outfall line, installation of a new manhole and 18-inch high-density polyethylene outfall line, installation of temporary piping and discharge, slip lining of the 21-inch corrugated pipe between the manhole, the new manhole, and the existing manhole, and creation of a contractor staging area, and then finally revegetation of the area. So the excavation, demolition, installation, most of that work will be installed, or I should say part of that work will be installed below the ordinary high water mark. And it's just the material above ordinary high that is being permitted through this Kenai River Overlay District permit. Soldotna Municipal Code 1710-285, which is the Kenai River Overlay District section, requires projects that are not exempt or that have not received an administrative permit to go through the process for a conditional use permit, subject to the standards 1710-400, which is our conditional use section. When we look at the Kenai River Overlay District section, the intent of that section of code is to provide opportunities for the development and use of land and enhancement of riparian habitat within all the zoning districts located along the Kenai River, while establishing special overlay requirements to control erosion, ground or surface water contamination, or adverse alteration of riparian habitat. With the applicant's permit application for a conditional use permit, we understand that the buried outflow line extends the entire length of the Kenai River Overlay District. So work will be occurring within that full 100 feet. A good part of that work is mainly just going to be to clearing a path so they can bring the excavator down to the river side where the manhole is. There's the pipe that's buried basically from, and we'll get this, I'm sure, clarified by our utility person, but or manager. The majority of work is going to be done right at about 10 feet from the river's edge. The rest of the work, the slip lining, for example, is going to be from 10 feet from the river up to the next manhole, but it's underground, so there's no disturbance. They're not digging a trench to remove that. And then from that point on back towards Porcupine Court, there isn't any work being done within that area, but they will have to bring an excavator in to clear that area and to be able to do the work at that lowest manhole. Approximately 3,500 square feet of vegetation will be removed and will be revegetated after construction. Our code also requires that we send this permit application materials to the Gilman River Center, and they have received it. And as I mentioned earlier, those permits are underway for those other agencies. And that takes us to page 18 of your packet, which is the standards for conditional uses. And 8 specific standards have to be met. The first one that we'll consider is the proposed development satisfies the specific standards associated with that conditional use listed in the code, if any. There are no specific standards are listed within the code, except that the commission may require conditions to mitigate the potential for significant erosion, ground or surface water contamination, or adverse alteration of the habitat, provided the commission makes a complete and written statement of evidence and findings to support the conditions. Again, the intent of the Kenai River Overlay District is to provide opportunities for the development and use of land along the Kenai River while controlling erosion, water contamination, and alteration of habitat. With the revegetation of the disturbed area, staff finds that the proposed development is in harmony with the intent of the overlay district. The second standard is that the use is in harmony with the comprehensive plan and surrounding land uses. Staff finds this standard is met. The proposed project is in harmony with the comprehensive plan. Specifically, the plan states the city will continue to expand and maintain an integrated, cost-effective system of municipal improvements and public infrastructure, and that the city's wastewater treatment discharge, and that the city's wastewater treatment system discharges treated effluent into the river. Although the discharge meets all permit requirements, public regulatory agency concerns are likely to continue. So those are a couple statements from the Soldotna Comprehensive Plan. The property is also in harmony with the future land use map, which identifies the area as institutional with the connection of an unzoned right-of-way. The buried utility line within the right-of-way is in harmony with neighboring institutional and residential uses. Again, the existing pipe is buried. After repair, it'll be no change. It'll all be buried still, and there'll still be 2 manholes, one about 10 feet from the water, and another one probably about 40 feet from the water. The third standard is that the use meets the general standards of the zoning code and the intent of the zoning district in which it is located. Staff finds this standard is met. The proposed project meets the standards of the zoning code and to include the general standards of the institutional district and the Kenai River Overlay District. Conditions are recommended to mitigate the potential for significant erosion, ground or surface water contamination, or adverse alteration of habitat. Those recommendations are within the resolution itself, and I will cover those after we go through the standards. The repair of the outflow pipe is consistent with and in harmony with the intent and general standards of the institutional district where the originating infrastructure is located. The utility infrastructure is to be located within the right-of-way, which is not zoned. The fourth general standard is that the use shall be located and arranged on the site to avoid significant noise, glare, odor, or other nuisances and dangers. Staff finds this standard is met. With the exception of the manhole, all other infrastructure is buried below the surface of the ground and will not be disturbed or excavated. No noise, glare, odor, or other nuisance or danger should result from the completed repair work. Additionally, federal, state, and local agencies provide monitoring and controls of Soldotna's sewer utility to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. The fifth standard is that the proposed development shall not significantly impair the value of the adjoining property. Staff finds this standard is met. The repaired outfall line will be located in the same right-of-way as it has been since 1972. The repair will benefit neighboring property owners and the larger community by ensuring compliance with state and federal requirements. And staff is not aware of any evidence that would suggest that the outfall line replacement would impair adjoining property values. The sixth standard is that the size and scale of the use shall be adequately served by existing public services and facilities. This standard is met. This is part of our utility, and for us to continue to serve our public, the pipe needs to be repaired, and we need to meet those standards that DEC has put on these or put on the utility. The seventh standard is that the granting of the conditional use shall not be harmful to the public safety, health, or welfare. Staff finds the standard is met. The repair to the outfall line and manhole is consistent with right-of-way uses. The rights-of-way are typically used to house many public amenities to include sewer and water, roads, sidewalks, and landscaping, and private utilities like electric, gas, and communications. These uses positively contribute to the public safety, health, welfare of the community. And the eighth standard is that where the property where the development is to occur is current in payments owed to the city, including property taxes, sale taxes, utility bills, and assessments. The standard's met. It's a city-owned right-of-way, so there's no fiscal obligations that are owed to ourselves. Additional comments on page 20 of the packet. We did mail out a notice to 49 people within 300 feet of this project area. We have not received any comments as of the writing of the staff report. We have not received anything as of tonight. We also did not receive any objections from the Rivers Center, DEC, our Public Works Director, Street and Maintenance Director, or our building official. Staff recommendation is that if approved, this permit will allow for the removal of vegetation, the excavation of land, the staging of vehicles, the demolition of the damaged outfall line and manhole, the installation of a new outfall line, and manhole and temporary cofferdam system, and the revegetation of the area within the Kenai River Overlay District. Staff finds that the proposed project meets the general standards of the Soldotna Municipal Code and meets the 8 conditional use standards for activities with or requiring a Kenai River Overlay District permit. So staff does recommend adoption of this resolution with the following conditions. The first one is that the applicant obtain all necessary permits from the borough, the state of Alaska, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. The second is that revegetation of disturbed areas be done no later than July 31st, 2025. The purpose of this condition is to ensure revegetation happens, and that's to reduce runoff and erosion potential. The third condition is that erodible materials be monitored on a daily basis to ensure they are not leaving the construction site. The fourth is if there is a potential for soil to erode, silt fence, straw wattles, or other best management practice shall be installed immediately to protect the Kenai River. And the last one is when fill is excavated, it should be deposited on the side of the excavation that is farthest away from the river. And that is the end of the staff report.
Thank you, John. The public comment period is now open. Is there any member of the public who wishes to speak on this item?
Good evening. Mike Allen, Utility Manager for the City of Soldotna. Mr. Zarneski covered the project very well, I thought. I'd be glad to answer any specific questions that the board may have.
Thanks.
Okay.
I just had a question about potentially adding an additional condition. Is it fairly standard? This pipe lasted 52 years. That's a pretty good run. Is it standard to just wait until it collapses or breaks before replacing it, or could we monitor it to replace it before the next one breaks?
The pipe that was installed was underwater, so it's very hard to monitor and underground. The pipe that's going to be put in and replaced should be plastic, HDP, and that should be there long after 100 years at least.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so is the, in 100 years, is it just, will there be Is there, I guess, a schedule for replacement based on the life of the infrastructure?
Typically, we watch or monitor the infrastructure, and as it starts to degrade, that's when you start looking to replace pipe.
Mhm. And for, in this instance, I know there's a measurement for effluent, but there wasn't a way to tell that it was needing physical repair.
Correct. There's no way to inspect it visually. How we found out that the pipe was failing is the water was backing up into the plant.
Right.
And throwing an error on our meter.
Okay, so there's
Yeah.
really no way to tell besides it breaking and then we fix it once it
Yes.
breaks. Okay,
Yes.
that was my question. Then I don't think I need to add a condition.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or?
Yeah, Commissioner Anderson here. I think it's good that we did go back in with HTP. It makes sense with corrosion issues and basically the conditions it was in for external and internal corrosion. I know the ADEC has regulatory requirements for periodic inspection of piping in service. Does it not give any for HDPE when it comes to in the next 100 years? We don't have to look at it one time. Like we don't have to dig it up at all, even just to do a spot location or inspection.
The inspection that we could observe above ground, yes, that will be inspected and reviewed and looked at. The portion that is underwater within the riverbed itself, that would not be dug up and could not be visually inspected.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep. So there's no plans to do that.
Correct.
Got it.
All right, I think, go ahead.
I have one question, Commissioner Smith O'Kaley. Is this scheduled to be done this summer? Is that what you're hoping?
We're
this
hoping to have it done March, April, the 1st of April, try to be done before May 15th.
Okay,
Be a 45-day construction period.
my question would be for John then. Is there a reason we're not requiring revegetation until 2025?
Through the chair, we wanted to give adequate time. Vegetation should happen immediately, but if there's issues, because it is on a slope, and if there's failure of that slope, we want to have the ability to go back and look at it over time. Also, this work is going to be occurring when the water level is low, but the ground is frozen and possibly still snow and ice covered. So we won't have a good idea immediately after construction whether whatever is placed there for revegetation, if it works. We're going to have to look at it a few times over the course of the year to make sure that whatever is placed there is working, and that if other measures are needed to protect the river, it might require some other type of method. But
Thanks. Yeah, just a follow-up question. On page 22 of our 842-page packet, this says the project timing will be from May 15th to July 15th. So the in-water work would occur as much as possible between May and July. Or were you saying the hope is that it's sooner?
The
If
hope
the
is that it
ground
would
isn't
be
frozen.
sooner. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak on this item? Hearing none, the public comment period is closed. Are there any commissioner comments or questions for staff? I think we got through them all. All right, can we call for the vote?
Murray,
Yes.
Topfest,
Yes,
Smith Wickaley,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Burton,
Yes.
Vadla.
Yes.
You have 6 yes votes.
All right, thanks. Moving on to the next item, Resolution PZ 2024-002, granting approval of a conditional use permit for the development of a fire station located at 273 Wilson Lane. I'm not gonna call for motion to approve or second because it's already on the floor. This is a continuation of the deliberation of the CES Fire Station conditional use permit from our last meeting on January 3rd. We do have our city attorney, Charles, with us, who will attend to assist us with any questions of process or other relevant matters. Thank you. We do need to restate that the chair already ruled that Commissioner Tom Anderson did not have a conflict of interest and could fairly and impartially participate. We do have 2 new commissioners on the commission. So I'd like to ask for our city attorney's opinion on their participation. If allowed to participate, I'm going to ask that the commissioners, if they've reviewed the materials and recordings from our previous meeting, and ask the applicant if they have any objection to these new commissioners participating in the continued hearing and decision. Let's see, I'll turn to my new commissioners and ask if anyone has a potential conflict.
Yes, Madam Chair. This is Gary Turner. I have a son who is an employee of CES. He's a firefighter, paramedic, and I don't see a conflict.
Okay, I'm still going to ask you a couple questions. All right. Have you made any statements, including on social media, which indicate that you have prejudged the merits of this matter?
No,
Do you believe that the permissions, if granted, would positively or negatively affect your property? Do you believe that if so, let's say, I'll move on. Are there any other previously undisclosed concerns that you have relating to your ability to fairly evaluate the application? Is there any reason that you cannot promise to be fair and impartial and not base the decision of this matter on any personal bias or pre-existing opinions of the matter before the commission?
no.
Thank you. I'll turn to our other new commissioner, Mark Burton. Do you think you have any potential conflicts to?
I do not.
Thanks. All right, moving on. I'd like to, oh. Okay. Oh, yeah, so sorry. I rule that you don't have a conflict of interest. Thanks, Gary. Is that adequate? Thanks. All right, we'll move on and ask if anyone has had any ex parte contact regarding this matter. So that means any private communications between an interested party and a member of the commission. If you have, you must disclose the contact and substance of the discussion at the beginning of the hearing. This will put the evidence that you received on the record. And then if you, then you should also state whether you believe that the contact has swayed your view of the matter and whether you can still give unbiased view to all the evidence presented. So has anyone believe they've had that kind of contact? It's okay if you have, you just need to disclose it. All right. Moving on, if you do want to reopen the public hearing, and I believe that we do need to make a motion to suspend the deliberation, but I think I'd like to hear the staff report first, and then we'll reopen the public hearing. That's all right with the commissioners. All right, so in addition to the materials from the last meeting, new materials have been provided to the commissioners in your packets. There's a lighting diagram for the parking lot. Thank you. There's a CES SOG for emergent and non-emergent calls, so when their sirens are going off, and there is an addendum to the CES Fire Station staff report, which John will be giving, and then we can open up the public hearing and get going. Thanks, John.
Thank you. So I did create an addendum. And what I'd like to start with is that at that last meeting in January, you did consider 3 different items related to the relocation of Fire Station number 1. 2 of those items were recommended for approval, and that was the rezoning of land from commercial to institutional. And then secondly, a plat to combine the, I believe it was 8 different lots into a single lot to facilitate the construction of the CES facilities. The third item that you considered that day was the conditional use permit for the fire station, and it's the one that we have on the agenda today. As Chair Vadla indicated, it is our recommendation that you make a motion to suspend your deliberations from that last meeting after the staff report and reopen the public hearing to allow for additional comment and statements. And as Chair Vadla said, there's some new information in your packet material that was requested. In addition, I want to provide you with some additional information regarding some of the issues that were raised at the previous meeting. There are a couple things that I just want to clarify. One, the question was about the width of Wilson Lane. It was questioned. The Wilson Lane is 36 feet in width, curb to curb, and it meets the city construction specifications for collector streets. So it meets all of our standards, and it is 36 feet in width. There was a question at that meeting whether it was sufficient in width for the fire department. The second issue that I want to get you some additional information is the distance from the existing fire station to where the proposed fire station is. There were a number of different numbers thrown around, and I overlaid the new station on the parcel map and then just drew a line from the closest part of that building to the existing fire station, the closest part of that building, and it's approximately 550 feet. So that gives you an idea of that distance. And then for the police station, the new fire station would be about 350 feet from it. There was also public comments submitted that suggested that unlisted uses are prohibited by Soldotna Municipal Code. That's not the case. We have a specific section of our code which is designed to treat unlisted uses. So fire stations, for example, and police stations are two uses which, for whatever reason, are not listed anywhere in our code. And what happens in those cases is that a process is put forth in that section of code that allows the administrative officer to make a decision whether that use should be a permitted use, a conditional use, or prohibited. And so through that process, I determined that the use as proposed should be a conditional use and that it come before this body for approval. The next item was additional statements regarding a court case. And the reason sorry, I want to back up. The reason I brought that item up with regard to 1710-320 is I want to make sure that that you have the correct information in front of you. Normally, staff doesn't correct public opinions. We'd potentially be having long discussions with members of the public. But when those decisions potentially lead you down a path that doesn't meet our code or isn't true, I want to bring that information to light. So I wanted you to know that, yes, this use, we have a process for unlisted uses, and what we've got in front of you is on the up and up. And then the fifth item on the addendum is another comment was made regarding a court case from 1932 with regard to nuisances. And in talking with Mr. Casciola regarding that decision, it's not factually, that decision is not factually similar and doesn't have any effective relevance to the conditional permit before you. That decision was used to determine what constitutes a private nuisance, and the city of Soldotna has its own standards, which are more restrictive than those that are applied to private nuisances. So the section of code that you've got, 1710-400, those 8 standards are what we utilize to determine whether a nuisance exists and whether it's compatible with the neighboring land uses. And then sixth, And I'll touch on this briefly, but there was a lot of discussion about the selection of the site for the fire station. That selection was made by the project applicant. And to me, when I look at it, it's similar to the developer that came in and built Walgreens, or that built and any other new development. They have their criteria for a site, whether it's the number of cars that are going by, the visibility from the highway, the access, all those things. They have the ability, once, they own that, to apply for an entitlement or a permit. And it's not within the commission's purview to determine whether the applicant selected the most appropriate site. The only thing that the commission is charged with doing is applying the 8 general standards found within the code. And those standards then become the measure of objectivity to determine whether whether a permit should be granted. And then last on that topic is myself and the former city manager did participate in their process. We were invited to their site selection process. We had 2 basic goals. One was to provide, or I should say, to continue to provide quality fire protection services and emergency services within the city and to city residents. And then secondly, to select a location that wouldn't impede commercial activity on the Sterling or spur highways. And one additional thing before I am going to go back and just restate a couple things from the staff report from last time, but I did want to share with you that, let's see, I just want to make sure I didn't cover there was a motion made at the last commission meeting, and it amended the resolution with regard to lighting. So the resolution that you have in the packet before you includes that amendment. So it's an amended resolution that included the motion to amend on lighting by Commissioner Murray, and it's the very last condition in the resolution. And then just to, as briefly as I can, recap, this is an application for the development of a fire station at 273 Wilson Lane. The applicant is the Kenai Peninsula Borough and Central Emergency Services. The location is sorry. The location is southeast of Rieger Avenue, northeast of Warehouse Drive, and northwest of Wilson Lane. All standards within the institutional district are met with the exception of one. There will be one legal non-conforming structure on the same lot as the fire station, and that's the current Office of Emergency Services. That building, once it's rezoned, will have a front yard setback of 9 feet, and in the institutional district, 20 is required. This building was legally constructed according to the requirements of the commercial zoning district at the time. But now with the change in zoning, it would become a legal non-conforming use. All the parking landscaping standards have been met, or I should say conditionally met. In some cases, the site diagrams didn't indicate the required number of trees, or actually, I think that was it. That was the only thing that was missing. And there are conditions in the resolution which bring that up to speed and make sure or ensure that those standards are met. And then similar to last time, or our last agenda item, we have 8 standards that have to be met. I'm going to briefly go through those. The proposed development satisfies the specific standards associated with the conditional use listed in the code, if any. Again, No specific standards are listed within the code for fire stations. Secondly, the use is in harmony with the comp plan and surrounding uses. Staff does find the standard is met. The project is harmony with the comp plan and surrounding land uses. In particular, there are some goals in the general land use section of the comp plan. One states to continue to monitor available land supply and evaluate the need for land of different zoning designations. Goal 7 of the regional growth and development section is to identify lands which may be needed in the future to provide city services or borough services to the larger regional population. And then goal 1 of the economic section is to develop a downtown plan that identifies what constitutes downtown and provides guidance to support quality commercial and institutional development. Regarding land uses, the surrounding land uses include a variety of commercial, residential, institutional uses, including the Office of Emergency Management, the Soldotna Police Department, and the existing fire station number 1. The proposed fire station is likely more compatible with commercial and institutional than residential uses, but considering that the existing fire station is 550 feet from the proposed new station, the overall impact of surrounding land uses would not change significantly. By moving the station, the area impacted would be shifted 550 feet and be repositioned or centered to the south of the current area. Some land uses or some residences impacted by the fire station would fall out of that area of impact and some would be entering. City staff believes that the proposed location is a compromise in that it keeps the fire station within an area that has existing institutional uses, and it preserves most important commercial lands along the Sterling Highway for other uses. And it minimizes the number of new land uses impacted by the new station. The third standard is that the use meets the general standards of the zoning code and the intent of the zoning code district in which it is located. Staff finds this standard is conditionally met. The proposed fire station is consistent with and in harmony with the general standards of the institutional zoning district, but lies within the commercial zoning district. Sorry, a separate, this was written at the last one. A separate resolution considering the zoning map amendment is before the Planning Commission. A rezone to institutional district is a condition of the proposed conditional use. We did two things, or you did two things. One is within this resolution, it's conditioned that it has to be rezoned. And when you approved the rezone last time, you basically said, yeah, go ahead with the rezone, but it also has to receive the conditional use permit. And then 4, the use shall be located and arranged on the site to avoid significant noise, glare, odor, or other nuisances and dangers. Staff finds this standard is partially met and can be satisfied upon the imposition of the condition identified below. So we talked about a number of different, with CES last time, a number of different ways that they were looking at trying to mitigate noise to include the positioning of the station itself, when sirens would be utilized and when they wouldn't, the screening of the property through vegetation. Those were the items that were mentioned, and you do have in your packet now one of those items that we had listed as a condition. We had asked that if there wasn't one developed, that a policy be developed as to when emergency lights and sirens would be used. And that was provided to us and is now in your packet. And so that a policy is in place at this time. Some level of noise will result from the new fire station and may impact residents and businesses who until now have not been affected by the operation of the existing fire station. And that, it was at that time that we discussed those standards and policies. It was made clear to us by by Chief Browning that a policy was in place. And as I mentioned, he did provide that to us and for our review. And, section 3C of that standard operating guideline does provide specific rules for responses. So if you're trying to figure out where in that document to look, it's 3C. Rule number 3 under the section provides guidance for emergent responses in residential areas and near the hospital. The fifth standard is that the proposed development shall not significantly impair the value of the adjoining property. Staff finds this standard is partially met. The proximity to certain land uses can have both a positive and negative effect on property values. Certain amenities like public parks and access to public transportation can bring higher values, while being close to a gravel pit or a waste transfer station might bring lower ones. Fire stations present both positive and negative impacts on nearby properties that may affect values. Noise from sirens and emergency lights may disturb neighboring property. However, proximity to a fire station can also lower insurance rates to the property owner, provide quicker response times, and provide a sense of security. There is evidence that noise-producing uses like airports, highways, schools, and fire stations may impair adjoining property values. We do not have any definitive research to share with you, either in-state or nationally, as to the implications on property values of fire stations. But we do share with you that they do come with both positive and negative impacts. Item 6 is that the size and scale of the use is such that it shall be adequately served by existing public services and facilities. Staff finds this standard is met. The size and scale of the new firehouse is larger than the existing, but the increased size is needed to meet current needs of CES and to provide emergency services to the growing region. Our utility manager, Mike Allen, stated that the new firehouse can be adequately served by existing sewer and water. Item, or I should say, condition number 7, granting of the conditional use shall not be harmful to the public health or welfare. Staff finds this standard is met. The firehouse will provide an essential public service similar to schools, libraries, post offices, childcare facilities, and police stations. One of the purposes of our zoning provisions in 1710-110 is to promote fire safety and public order. The granting of a conditional use permit should improve public safety, health, and welfare by providing the latest facilities and technology for firefighters, and by moving to a location on a side street that offers safer egress from the station and safe access to the Sterling Highway. The proposed use exists for the express purpose of protecting public health, safety, and welfare. The last condition is that the property where the development is to occur is current, and payments owed to the city include property taxes, sales tax, utility billing and assessments, or has entered into an agreement with the city for repayment. This standard is met. The applicant does not owe anything with regard to sales tax, utility billings, property taxes, or other payments. We did receive comments at the initial meeting that are reflected in the minutes, and a copy of the written testimony was provided in your packet. We have not received any additional comments in our office on this item since that last meeting. Summary of staff determination. First, one of the things, well, let me say this. Staff has determined that the project meets or partially meets the general standards for development in the commercial zoning or in the institutional zoning district, and recommends approval of the plan. So a yes vote would approve this conditional use permit for the construction of the fire station. A no vote would fail the permit and would not allow construction of the fire station at this location. There are a number of conditions that were written. Many of them are standard conditions with regard to operations under construction, things like erosion control and such. But I am going to read through them so that everybody is familiar with the standards that were, or I should say the conditions that were included. So the first one was that construction and maintenance be in accordance with the conditional use permit application and the site plan submitted on November 17th and on the requirements stated herein. The second condition is that the construction of a fire station is subject to approval of a zoning map amendment for the property from commercial to institutional. The third is the applicant must obtain a building permit. Fourth is the applicant shall install lighting of all parking and loading areas. Fifth is snow storage shall be outside of required parking and landscaping areas. Six is a total of 13 additional trees shall be installed within the right-of-way landscape bed along Wilson, and an additional 12 along Warehouse Drive, and a total of 27 trees along Rieger. Where firehouse driveways intersect sidewalks, warning signage for pedestrians shall be installed and or paint or colored concrete be used on the sidewalks to draw attention to the driveways and provide for public safety. The eighth condition is that all landscaping shall be installed prior to October 31st, 2026, and prior to the issuance of a final certificate of occupancy. Condition 9 is landscape beds containing existing native vegetation counting toward the right-of-way shall be flagged and protected if they are to be used and if they are to remain. The 10th condition, paving shall be completed by October 31st, 2026, and prior to the issuance of a final certificate of occupancy. Number 11 is landscape areas shall be protected from impacts resulting from snow storage and removal operations. 12 is submission of a sign permit for any signage. 13 is was the one that we mentioned earlier, that prior to commissioning a new station, the permittee shall adopt and maintain written standards and policies for emergency vehicle dispatch and the use of sirens to minimize neighborhood disruption while complying with industry safety standards and best management or best practices for emergency response vehicles. And then the one that was moved and approved as an additional condition at your last meeting was the applicant shall install lighting that minimizes glare to the surrounding residential properties. And that is the end of the staff report.
Thank you, John. All right, if do they need to come up and state, or is it okay to just, yeah, do you have any objection to the new commissioners? You can, or you did. We're trying to keep things on the record would be good, says Johnny. Okay.
My name's John Hedges. I'm the purchasing contracting director for the Kennesaw Peninsula Borough, and the project manager that was working on this project was is no longer working in my department. So he was working under my direction and signed that permit. So yes, we don't have any objection to the commissioners, the new commissioners.
Thank you. Sufficient. Okay, thanks. All right, thank you for the staff report and thanks for that. I suggest that we reopen the public hearing, but I need a motion to suspend the our deliberation from last meeting so that we can reopen the public hearing. So I'd ask that someone move to suspend deliberation and reopen the hearing.
Commissioner Murray, Madam Chair, I would move to suspend our rules and reopen the public hearing on the resolution.
Thank you. May I have a second?
This is Charlene Topfest, I'll second.
Thank you. All right, with the approval of that motion, the public hearing can be reopened, and we can hear from Chief.
So, all right.
Yeah, the green light means it's on.
Perfect.
Thanks. And if you don't mind, just for formality and to keep Johnny happy, can you say your name and address?
For the record, my name is Chief Roy Browning with Central Emergency Services. Live off of Key Beach, and like to thank everyone for allowing us to present. I ask that you may suspend the rules so that I can get through my presentation as far as the time limit. Thank you for allowing me to present on our project. I would like to quickly summarize the site process that was done in collaboration with the City of Soldotna, Kenai Peninsula Borough, and the Central Emergency Services. Next slide, please. Although the evaluation of renovation or remodel of current Soldotna station or whether or not to build a new replacement station, the discussions date back to 2002. The most recent process started in collaboration in 2016 with former Kenai Peninsula Borough Mayor Mike Navarre, Soldotna Mayor Pete Sprague, and City Manager Mark Dixon in touring the current fire station at 231 Binkley. After the tour, representatives of the City of Soldotna, Kenai Peninsula Borough, and CES formed a site selection committee to address the needs of CES in the selection of the best site benefiting the residents for the City of Soldotna as well as the entire service area. That process, as you can see on the slide, 2016 to 2022. And again, at the time, Stephanie Queen was the Director of Economic Development and later became the City Manager. You see that Kyle Cornelis was also part of city staff that was on that committee, as well as John Cerneski. For the borough, land manager Marcus Mueller, Kevin Lyons was then the capital projects director, and Selena Robinson. And of course, in CS was the fire chief, myself, Roy Browning, and deputy chief. Over the next 6 years, multiple selection criteria were evaluated. Response times, distances, operational lot size, available, and whether or not someone was willing to sell that property. Vacant land, what was available, whether or not we had to demo any properties that existed on those, and most importantly, our ISO, which is our insurance services organization, which is our response time, or what's called a community risk reduction. I'll go into depth that a little bit more, but those were some of the things that were looked at. The other thing that was taken into consideration was any of the properties that were on the other side of the Kenai River. What we didn't want to do is be isolated in case of a disaster or a bridge failure, that the Sterling Fire Station was the only station available for our highest density of calls, which is the Soldotna area. Street access, we wanted 2 ways in and out. Again, this is to build redundancy, available utilities, and the city's desire in regards to development of commercial and revenue. Next slide, please. As you can see, we evaluated in that site selection 11 sites. A lot of them, again, in the purple, the green areas were residential with limited different speed zones, which would impede our response and our access to the Sterling Highway or the Kenai Spur. That gave us the areas in yellow in the city zone, which are commercial. And again, the desire for us not to be along the Sterling Highway or the Kenai Spur, but basically 1 to 2 blocks off of that has led us to the site. Again, we're looking at those, we wanted to minimize those as much as possible. And again, also eliminate the properties that were across the Kenai River. Next slide, please. As I stated earlier, Insurance Services Office, the city right now has a rating of a class 2, and which is 1 is the best, 10 is no fire protection. And right now, the city basically has a ISO class 2, and that's a collaboration of work that the city utilities provides to us, our dispatch. So you can see on the left, or I'm sorry, on the right of the slide, that we are audited every 3 years, and that includes fire equipment, trucks, the staffing available. And this is staffing in the main fire station so that we can respond to calls within a timely, not only distance, but time, and also training. And again, fire prevention, dispatch, and water supply available. This is annual savings to the entire service area, well over $12 million a year. That's 11,994 home residents and approximately 1,417 commercial businesses. Next slide, please. Again, when we talk about ISO, one of the things that they look at is the staff available. Our current fire station at 231 Binkley does not meet the operational capacity that the city run volume has increased including the entire service area by about 400%. Currently, our staff, 74 total, 49 full-time, and then 25 volunteers. And at the main station, we'd like to, we have enough room right now for overflow dorm rooms and things that were not really resident beds. We've kind of maxed out the facility. We've got firefighters sleeping on the floor right now, and that's why the size of the building needs to be increased in the new location. Next slide, please. One of the other things that we're graded on is our community and fire prevention. We wanted the fire station to be located within the city so that it was within walking distance of all of our schools and daycares, and that any of the community events, including car seat. One of the things that the new station, the proposed, is also one of the things that we found in doing our engagement with the community was that the heavy desire on a community room, a big room that different organizations could come and have meetings in or use the facility, and that is included in this project. Next slide, please. So after going through the 11 sites, we looked at, again, what sites maintained 100% or close to 100% of the ISO, the distance and the time response that were graded and audited on. And right there, that map displays those different property locations. We looked at between 11 to 13 sites. Next slide, please. Last meeting, some commissioners asked for maybe to see where the call saturation was inside the city and the surrounding area. And right there, we've got a map that displays, the bulk of our calls. Next slide, please. So why is this important? CES's strong desire, along with the city, was to maintain a 4-minute response time. You can see the areas in green are a 4-minute response time. And this is very important for 80% of our calls, which are medical. And those are cardiac, stroke, breathing emergencies. We want to try to be there within 4 minutes. And the location moving approximately 350 to 550 feet keeps everything 100% and maintains our 4-minute response time for not only the city of Soldotna, but those right on the edge. Just a thing about, we talked about medical, but fires. Fires double every minute. That's your homes, schools, businesses, and threat to safety and property loss. Property loss also is tax revenue loss, and not to mention the lives. Next slide, please. Again, this is one other representation to just see where the calls are saturated within the city, and that's why the location of the fire station is very important to us. Next slide brings us to April of 2022. We had 3 finals, and 2 of them are within that zone area that we're talking or considering tonight. One was to the Safeway side of it, which they declined to sell, and then the other was at the Homestead location, and they declined to sell, which then, of course, at Wilson Rieger site agreed to sell when that construction site no longer needed the property. Last slide, please. Or second to last, I'm sorry. So part of this is the public engagement. Like I said, we've had 46 service area board meetings that the Soldotna Fire Station, either renovation or replacement project, has been on that agenda. It's been publicly noticed. We've had 6 Kenai Peninsula Borough Assembly meetings in regards to the Soldotna Station, which included the land purchase. And then during our bond initiative, we did 10 public awareness community meetings, which involved not only the Soldotna Fire Station, but the location, the proposed location that we're talking about tonight. And in the October 4th election, we had a 66% approval of proposition number 3, which included the land approval as well as the construction bond. 66%. I know the field house got 67%, but we were pretty close. The last slide here has to do with parts of the conditional use permit that we did have in writing currently, like I spoke on and testified at our last meeting. This standard operating guideline, there's a couple layers of how we dispatch for emergent, which is lights and sirens, versus non-emergent. Our 911 computer aided dispatch is a computer system that generates when a person calls into the 911 looking for assistance or help in an emergency situation or citizen assist. Those calls are all prioritized through a computer system. That's called Pro QA or Pro Quality Assurance. There are 229 determinant classifications that decide whether or not the right resource needs to respond and whether or not that resource needs to go in an emergency situation or a standard vehicle moving down through the traffic, following all laws. Again, the policy went into effect. It was revised in 2015 and again, looked at May 6th of this last year or 2022. There is no expiration on these. These are all standing protocols. Again, as Mr. Sarneski stated, in your packet, you have this standard operating guideline, and under 1D is non-emergent versus emergent definition. On page 3C, number 2, it talks about stacked traffic, and anytime that any of our emergency vehicles are moving and the traffic starts to get backed up, where the policy states to turn off the siren, turn off the lights, and follow all traffic laws. Under 3C, page 3, it talks about late night hours, neighborhoods, no sirens, and also by the hospital. And lastly, on 3C, number 11, page 3, it says reduce code. So when we get information during the call process, if the 911 operator notifies us on radio that we need to downgrade or turn the sirens or lights or the emergency is de-escalated or canceled, we are notified, as well as any law enforcement that may already be on scene. In other words, Soldotna police or the state troopers can either slow us down, meaning go ahead and become a non-emergent response, and or cancel the call. And that concludes my presentation. I'll entertain any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do commissioners have any questions for?
Commissioner Anderson here. Where's the, I had to leave on the last meeting. We got through the first one of those, which was contingent on whether or not this passed. So I missed that meeting, but so you may have already answered the question, but the main entrance and exit onto the Sterling Highway, is that going to be all the way down by, what's that road right there with the stoplight towards like Pizza Boys? Kobuk. Or is it right in front of it by Wells Fargo? And then are we going to need to install a stoplight there? Is my question.
Thank you for the question, Commissioner Anderson, through the chair. Right now, if we need to go anyway towards Sterling, we would obviously turn on to Wilson around the roundabout back onto Binkley. If we're heading south, we would probably most likely do the transition across to Kobuk, take the light, and move further south. However, if the emergency is at the Blazing Mall or something like that, we would access warehouse and go across the Sterling Highway. So,
okay. Thank you.
Anything from Charlene or Mark, commissioners on?
This is Charlene. I don't have any question, just comment, and thank you very much for that presentation.
Commissioner Burton, I agree. Great presentation, and it appears that, as stated last time and this time, it's a dynamic response where 911 is kind of regulating what the degree of severity is, and it's a dynamic process. You change lights and noise according what the situation that itself as. So thank you.
Okay. I think if there are no other questions for Chief, we'll continue the public hearing and allow any others who wish to speak on this item to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tyson Cox, Soldotna. I live off of Redoubt. I was coming in tonight to just let you know that I support this resolution, and I hope that it will be something that you guys can pass after having many of your questions answered after the postponement. I think that the chief did a good job in answering those questions. I also wanted to remind everyone that as the assembly member for the Soldotna area, I also was one of the ones who voted on having the bond go to the people. And just to remind everyone that that passed very strongly as well, to have this fire station go in. And this was actually very much a location that was being considered at that time as well. So when the people voted on it, I think this was one of the areas that they already knew would probably be a location for that. The other thing I was going to ask is, I did watch the video of the last meeting. I noticed that there was a lot of questions. I know it can be tough, and that's, I guess, where I wanted to go, is it can be really tough to know which questions go with which resolution. But what the other two have already being passed is what I would just ask is that we think about what the question is. I think John had mentioned it before, but the question really now is has the borough met the conditions of the conditional use permit? Have they met being able to do that? And that's what we're really trying to ask here, is that question. Can they do that? Should this pass? There were a lot of other questions that kind of got into the weeds last time. And I really do ask that we just really focus on what those questions are and what really pertains to this. As far as area goes, Chief had mentioned the 4 minutes. I have several properties in Soldotna, several residential properties for rentals. And we had one off of Night Drive several years ago that I got a call from a renter over there that said there's smoke coming from the laundry room. My office was closer to that location than the fire station was. And by the time I got my shoes on and was able to get over there, they already had the dryer hauled out into the driveway. The fire was out and had actually gotten and checked all the units. And I mean, we're talking like that might have been 5 minutes. It was a very short amount of time. So when we talk about where a fire station is located, Chief is very much correct. And not just from his standpoint, but from a standpoint of a resident, it's a big deal where that's located. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Kapp. I live at 41151 Shawn Court. I love a small city because I think I know every one of you in some fashion, so that's good. I'm also the board chair for the Central Emergency Services Service Area Board of Directors. So the 46 meetings where this issue has been discussed at the service area board level, I think I've been at about 42 of them. So I do appreciate the concerns of the residents and the process available to voice those concerns. I was on the Zoom at the previous meeting, so I kind of captured all that. I just wanted to add a few comments there. One is when I hear the sirens and see the lights of CES, I think of lives being saved and property being protected. My first instinct isn't to think about the inconvenience of myself or other residents. I kind of celebrate the lives being saved at that point. Another thought that came to mind when there was a lot of talk about the noise or the sound of the sirens and this and that, I thought about like the civil defense siren. It's at the Borough Building, right in the smack dab middle of the city of Soldotna, close to many hundreds, if not thousands of residents. And so I thought, well, should we move that out to the Sterling Flats so it doesn't disturb as many people? To me, that would make no sense. The sound is there for a reason. It's to alert people of the emergency. So there's that issue. The other thing that I think's worth thinking about, we're getting pretty specific about what exit they use, what highway they're going, et cetera. This may sound funny to say, but the sirens are forward facing on the trucks. So if they're not going to leave the fire station facing toward Hillcrest or that direction and crank the sirens before they turn to the Sterling Highway, by the time they're close to the highway, turn the sirens on, they're going completely the opposite direction of the residents on those streets up above. So I think that's worth paying attention to. Or towards Binkley, the sirens are facing towards Safeway, completely away from the residents, for whatever that's worth. The other note that I made is that some of these residents may be further from the station now than they were. The station's been there for 45 years. I think of the apartments that are on the end by Binkley. If you triangulate that, I think they're probably further away now than they were for all these years. So there is that. Also, that 11 unique sites were considered by a really diversified group of stakeholders, including extensive involvement by City of Soldotna staff, as Mr. Sarneski mentioned. So I just share that this has been through the ringer here. And last, I think, is that I like Mr. Zarneski's phrasing that this project is in harmony with the city plans and objectives and the good of the city and the borough. So I urge passage of the resolution.
Thank you. Is there any other member of the public who wishes to speak on this item?
Hello, my name is Daniel Turner. I live at 221 West Redoubt Avenue. Been a member of the community for 5 years. I just want to say I support the passage of this, simply for the fact of having family, friends, and obviously knowing what the fire department can do around here, and response times, that they're a service to our community. And if we delay passage of this new station, that's a disservice to our community. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Is there anybody else? With nobody else wishing to speak, the public comment period is now closed. Are there any commission comments or questions for staff?
Commissioner Murray, through the chair, just that I think that both of the major issues that presented themselves at the last meeting, to my satisfaction, have been resolved. Certainly to know specifically that what the policy is and there's state law involved in terms of sirens, et cetera. I think that there was quite a bit of materials in our packet on the light, but I think that was valuable because we addressed the concern of glare. And if I am looking at those fixtures correctly, we've addressed that. So, you know, and I think on balance, it's in a location that really fits the community in terms of access to Sterling Highway. I think it, you know, that the current section where the fire department is can become more congested because of just the traffic from Safeway and the mall and everything else. You know, as the engines are leaving the station, I think probably and possibly that will be mitigated in the new location. So I'll be voting in favor of the conditional use permit.
Commissioner Anderson here. Yeah, I think the last meeting to this meeting, there was a lot of additional things brought up, reconciled, and it was a good exercise to have. And I think that good came from it. And I really appreciate the chief and everyone else John, who put the additional time into it and making sure that we're getting what we want as a city. So I appreciate it.
This is Charlene Topfest. I just really appreciate John and the chief for the additional information, and I will be voting in support of this. Thank you.
All right, Mark or Gary, any comments or questions for staff?
Commissioner Burton here. Thank you for submitting the standard operating procedures. That was very clarifying. I also want to state for the record before we vote, I realize I missed my chance, but I've had ex parte contact on this issue, but it has not in any way influenced my decision for this vote. So if you need more information, I'm happy to provide that.
Yeah, we'd like the information just to know what the contact was. And
yeah, the contact was Susan Browning, who is associated with Chief Browning at Kenai Peninsula College. We both serve as advisors for the Student Union Council And she had watched the meeting and she was just commenting on it. There was no intent to influence any of the decisions that were coming up in this particular meeting. So I just wanted to state that for the record.
Thank you. Yeah, my determination is that that won't affect your ability to be impartial, so it's fine to vote.
Thank you.
All right, I just wanted to make a comment. Yeah, thank you very much, Chief, and everybody who's here. I have the highest respect for emergency services personnel and Mr. Hedges and Mr. Parker. I know that you've designed and you will implement this project well. I will be voting in support. If I'm going to do my job as Planning and Zoning Commissioner, though, I need to put some things on the record about why we needed to ask so many questions and why we delayed this vote. Our job as the Planning and Zoning Commission for the City of Soldotna is to act as a quasi-judicial body to advise the City Council on issues and activities related to planning, land use, regulation, and community development. That's why we can't just take each project as they come. We have to step back and look at the broader uses, the zones in our city, the comprehensive plan, and as we saw in the conditional uses, that only, there were several of them that were only partially, our standards were only partially met. So that's why we needed to ask so many questions and do our due diligence. For standard number 2 of this use being in harmony with the comprehensive plan and surrounding land uses, I just wanted to reiterate a part that our commercial classification is intended to create a concentrated, vibrant, and attractive downtown business district, which is convenient to both motorists and pedestrians. A diverse retail base ranging from small to medium to large and local to regional stores is encouraged. Primary uses in our commercial district is general retail. Additionally, there's personal and professional services, entertainment establishments, restaurants, and related businesses. A characteristic of the commercial land use classification is the availability of city and water. So these 8 lots were actually also a part of an update to that we made last year as the Planning and Zoning Commission, recommending amendment to our Soldotna Municipal Code Title 17, establishing a new subchapter 1710-267 for the commercial core district. So we just did that as a planning and zoning body. That did not go to the city council yet, but it was a step that we took to say that we have a very limited area in our commercial core. We're a small city. So what uses do we want to promote in that downtown core? So we made a list of them in that new subchapter and amended the sections of Soldotna Municipal Code Titles 1, 15, and 17 to establish standards for the commercial core zoning district. And so, for instance, there approved uses included things like assemblies and concert halls, dwellings, mixed-use development, eating and drinking establishments, financial services, light industry, including breweries, distilleries, museums, art galleries. There's a whole list of uses that we approved and wanted to promote in the downtown core area, the commercial core area. We also made a listing of conditional uses and structures that we needed to see to approve use, including fueling, automobiles, daycare centers, guide services, lodging, etc. I bring this up because we didn't, as a body, we didn't make any determinations that our commercial core would be reduced, and that area, that site actually has in many plans, including the Soldotna Comprehensive Plan, Soldotna 2030. There are some indications that is an area for high pedestrian use. The bookends on Wilson of the coffee shop and the grocery store makes it a highly pedestrian trafficked area. And so for a while, we've heard from the community and from the local business community that the hope for that area was for independently owned businesses and a commercial core. I bring that up not to say that I'm not in favor of the fire station going here, but just that it obviously, as listed in the standards that are in the staff report, this is a compromise. And I want to go on record saying that we need to carefully consider further limiting of commercial properties in the city of Soldotna. There's very few of them, and we have very little property tax, but our revenue really is from sales tax. And so it's in our best interest to, of course, have a quick and fabulous emergency services, which we will have, but also to have a thriving and vibrant business district. And we, because we have so little commercial property, we need to be very careful and ask a lot of questions when we're changing that commercial property to institutional use, and when we're basically forever giving away the ability to collect sales tax and have these pockets of business districts, kind of like that we have at Wednesday in the park. That has really changed the culture of our community. And it's not just the businesses and the music, it's really seeing people that you know face to face. And that's the hope, as cited in the new Riverfront redevelopment plan that we'll take a look at later, as well as our comprehensive plan. The goal and our vision is to create pockets that are similar to the music in the park, to create pockets of walkable, livable, mixed use, independently owned businesses. That's the vision that we've stated in multiple planning documents for the city. So it's a loss to lose those commercial areas, and it's a gain to have the fire, to have CES go there. So I just wanted to go on record saying that I hope that we can take some of the strategies that are proposed in the Riverfront redevelopment plan and apply that to the commercial core district that we drafted. And right now, the Riverfront redevelopment is just on the riverside of the Sterling Highway, but we have a lot of small businesses and a lot of commercial activity on the other side of the highway. And I know that you guys will be good neighbors. So I think the only other comment that I wanted to make is that in that same standard for being in harmony with the comprehensive plan, that city staff believed that this was a good location because it preserved the most important commercial lands along the Sterling Highway. And I'll just say that the realities for small business owners in the city of Soldotna is that often the lands adjacent to the main right-of-way are not actually accessible or financially affordable. So these areas that are right off the road are the properties that are more affordable to independently owned local business owners. So when we're making determinations of which properties are the most important commercially to keep, I think we should, not just consider the highest value properties, but also those that are affordable to local business owners who, we have lots of local businesses that are the cornerstone of our area. We got Pizza Boys and Sweeney's, these add to the character of our town, but we also want to create an environment that makes it possible for new businesses to be able to get a foot in the door and add to the culture of Soldotna, which is a thriving locally owned businesses. That's what makes us better than Kena, So I don't mean to take a lot of everybody's time, but I just wanted to let you know why there was so much deliberation and why this was a hard decision, even though in many ways it's a no-brainer. So that's my comment. And I think if no one else has any comments, we can call for the vote.
Murray,
Yes.
Toutfest,
Yes.
Smith Wigaley,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Burton,
Yes.
Vadla.
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Moving on to new business. Yeah, if you do, you don't have to stay if you don't want, but I will say the Riverfront redevelopment plan is going to be riveting.
I could do that because there's like 40 of them, and or I could just do new hand motions for every slide. We're here. My husband.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, I'll do that.
Once you've done one, you don't. That's true. That's true.
Well, no, I just need just. What about that? No.
And if you don't, it's okay. Yeah.
Right, but they did say
It wasn't too much longer than the borough meeting.
Not lately, we've been telling you.
Yeah, but they started. That's good.
Not anymore. We're starting like 3:30.
3:30.
Well, what we missed though is early. We were doing all the materials.
Yeah, that's.
You're not staying?
No, you're good. As long as you're good to go, you're good to go. Right? You're happy? You're happy I can leave.
Wow, that's awesome.
Happy?
That's a good way to.
Right.
You did great.
Yeah. Oh, you were great. Yeah. I like talking about that. That's what, yeah.
Well, that's great. Yeah.
Dennis.
And the field house, right, and the right.
Yeah. Right, I joined the gym.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Exactly, yeah. I'll walk, biking.
Okay. Sounds great. Congratulations, Chief. Yes. Yes.
This next project.
Building.
Obviously excited about the fire station.
Next,
Next we gotta get a building.
So, Riverfront, we're working on a sort of housing project on that property next to Mountain Rise. I was telling you, I really want to pretty. About the place, well, it's not long yet.
yes, sure. I was out.
You know, so I made. We need it. Well, Trey, congratulations. Yeah. So, I agree.
Right, yeah.
He's very handsome. Joel would be jealous of his hair.
And then you're thinking about.
Yeah. Bringing it home, bringing it back together. Yep. Yeah, no, it is. It's nice to have some engagement and yeah. So I'll,
Yeah, sure, if you, yeah, like using that, go ahead, but you can say we're, bringing the meeting back to order.
okay, bringing the meeting back to order. Thanks. All right, new business. Resolution PZ 2024-005, recommending adoption of the Soldotna Riverfront redevelopment plan. May I have a motion to approve, and I just wanted to say, we do not have to, because I just read the resolution in full, when you move to approve, you can just say, I move to approve resolution PZ and the numbers. You don't have to state the whole thing in full. Yeah. Save us at least a minute, a meeting.
Commissioner Anderson here, motion to approve resolution number PZ 2024-005.
Thanks. Sweet. And you can say, I move.
Oh, I move to approve.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry.
Details. Second. Can I have a second?
I second.
Commissioner Murray,
Thanks. Thanks. Can we have the staff report?
Yes, thank you. So I've got a PowerPoint that I'm going to try to move through really quick. And the reason I want to do that is because I want to spend the time hearing from you what your questions, comments, concerns are, and you know what your thought of the plan is. So this item is a legislative item, so you're making a recommendation to council. One of the things that I'll do during this meeting is I'll be taking notes so that two things would potentially be going to council. One is being the resolution, and two would be any additional comments and items of note that you want them to hear in their consideration of the plan. So with that, see if I can work this. So the first thing is, as you know, this plan was really a result of several other planning efforts, and every subsequent planning effort after Envision Soldotna 2030 really refined our goals of those previous plans that made them more specific and more actionable. And so as our focus became more narrow, the actions that are called for become more precise. And so now we have this redevelopment plan in front of us. It calls for specific actions, boots on the ground, so to speak, actions where we start talking to developers, we start talking to, and continue to talk to property owners, businesses, funders. This is the part where we literally dive in and you start working towards it. What are we trying to accomplish? These are the items that we identified when we first, well, actually, it's a continuation from the downtown development plan. We were looking at how do we make the Kenai River a bigger part of our community? How do we make it a focal point of our downtown and a destination? We talked about how walkable we want our community to be, and all the different types of entertainment, retail, lodging that we would like to see connected. We talked about a trail that would go all the way from Soldotna Creek Park to the bridge. One of the things staff and the administration were very interested in was the better use and improvement of available lands. What we noted was there was a lot of parcels along the Sterling Highway and adjacent to the river that had vacant empty space along the riverside and were developed on the Sterling Highway side. And so there was an opportunity to potentially reopen some land to new development. And the nice thing about that is at 7.4 square miles, we don't have an opportunity really to grow, at least not that we know of. So it's important to identify these areas and figure out ways that we can make better use of our resources, whether it's available lands or underutilized buildings. Another big goal was to build and grow our year-round economy by supporting local businesses, encouraging entrepreneurship, and trying to find the money and the partners to make this all work. And the plan that's in front of you or on your screen really is the how we accomplish it. We use that whole planning process and the grant that we received for the plan to collect and analyze data, to conduct a market analysis that would tell us essentially where our money is being spent in the community, where it's being taken out of the community. We looked at a feasibility analysis to determine if any of those market needs could fiscally be made or constructed here. Does the price of construction, does it cost more to build it than they would make in the use itself once it's up and running? Public engagement, we had a very robust, or we wanted to have a very robust public engagement section. And as you probably recall, we had a number of stakeholder meetings. We had an advisory committee, and Jenny was our liaison from the Planning Commission, serving on our advisory committee. We had two huge public meetings out at the Sports Center. And then we had a number of work sessions, both joint work sessions with the council and P&Z. And then the plan also gives us some ideas on conceptual planning. We started with a number of concepts, and through this process, we've narrowed it down to one. And then the master plan basically is the plan that really consolidates all the work products and all the findings into a single document. one of the things you'll see in, there was a comment about 860-page staff report, and the majority of that is the appendices that support the work that's in.
That was an excited comment.
Okay, that's the data, that's the information that supports the information that's in the master plan. So let's roll on. You know, our project team, most every city department participated, everybody from city manager to Laura and Jen, Public Works, the clerks, finance, parks, they were all involved in this process. A big part of this project team too was the Kenai Peninsula Economic Development District. They helped us write the grant, and EDA, our funder. And then, of course, our consulting team, which included the first 40 feet and the subs that you see listed there. This is, to me, an important thing that I wanted to share with you. This is page 6 of the plan. And I share it because we can read these plans and really get caught up in the details. But what it's doing is providing a general guide, not a strict path. It's going to give us a direction. We're going to have a ton of decisions to make rolling forward. It's not all spelled out in the plan, but the general direction is, and it'll provide the guide for us as we start working on this. I already went through public engagement, so I'm not going to touch on that. Additionally, the vision for the project was that project area is envisioned as a setting for public-private investment that is a woven blend of nature, wildlife, recreation, public gathering. So that vision was drafted as part or during our public engagement sessions. We asked questions of the public. What is it that you appreciate about this community? What is it that you like and that you want to maintain and preserve? And these are the items that were brought forward. Our objectives are closely related to some of the things that we identified early in the process. These are the objectives that were identified after the public engagement session. Again, bringing the river into our everyday experience, supporting our local businesses, highlighting the river, again, incorporating the natural landscape into downtown, providing housing options to meet local needs. That was one that was brought up during the public sessions, was housing. That one wasn't one that we were thinking of as staff initially. We knew mixed use development was something that we were after, but we didn't know enough to know, for example, the density that we should be looking at and what types of housing might be successful. Another objective is that we, again, continue to work on public-private partnerships, identify infrastructure that's going to be critical to supporting redevelopment, and exploring options and strategies for funding. The plan identifies 7 strategies for success, the big ideas, and these in your plan are on page 24. I don't know if you're following along or not, but basically the big idea is to bring the vision of life. They support the guiding principles of the plan. And the next slide will show you these strategies, these 7 strategies. So key pathways, so those are pink arrows or reddish arrows that extend from our residential areas into the district. And the idea here is, of course, to make connections, to bring our community and make it part of this downtown area. So it's not just drawing arrows on a map. It means physically improving the infrastructure on those streets to include things that make them more walkable and make them better connected, make them or provide the public basically a comfortable way to leave their homes and get to this downtown area or get to the park. The second one is Sterling Trail along the Sterling Highway corridor. We already, as you know, have a path along the Sterling Highway. What is being proposed here is something that would make it more comfortable to walk on rather than being immediately adjacent to the road, to have it set off, have it wide enough, have it buffered. So that's that concept. The public market at Soldotna Creek Park is a concept that came about in the middle of the plan. And it was really, the thought here was, if we're looking for opportunities to grow our local businesses and encourage entrepreneurship, public markets have been very successful at doing that and bringing benefits to the community. They provide a place for people to gather. They provide, of course, sales tax to the community. They provide an opportunity for those little businesses that show up at Wednesday to potentially expand their business by renting a small space in a public market. The next one is a bookend public gathering. So one of the public gathering spaces would be where it says Park Plaza, and the other one would be the Bridgehead Plaza. And both of these, the idea are to create spaces that are along the river that will give people a place to gather. In particular, our consultant was like, in the summertime, the market's going, people are going to be, grabbing their foods, their stuff. They're going to head out to that plaza, sit and enjoy their coffee and their snacks. And same thing with the Bridgehead Plaza, that it gives an area to focus on for the commercial development that's envisioned down at the other end. Trails, boardwalks connecting to the riverfront. One of the things we heard loud and clear during the public session was that, or the public engagement sessions, was that people wanted to have an extension of our walkways that we have at Soldotna Creek Park all the way to the bridge. And so we understand that there's going to be some difficulty in some spots to do that because of where buildings are currently placed on the river. Some are very close, some are a little farther away. So we may have to kind of bob and weave that trail in and out to make it work. But it's one of the high priority things or items in the plan. New and enhanced streets for development at the hubs. So the concept here is to make our streets and our street designs, make them, again, pleasant for people to walk and bike on, make them narrow enough that the speeds are 25 miles per hour or less so that people can cross the street safely, provide on-street parking. And that part is important. If we want to get the density that we hope to get to encourage multiple use type development, we do need to create spaces for parking. We don't have enough room to do everything. We don't have enough room to provide the same kind of parking ratios we have today for this type of development in the future. We're going to have to create some new ways to park, and on-street parking is one of those. And then, again, the mixed-use development that we've talked about from the start, that type of development would be encouraged. Market analysis. So again, the market analysis was conducted to help the city identify and understand the types of uses that might be most beneficial to the community. And we looked at residential, commercial uses. We tried to identify our competitive advantages. Some of those advantages include things like we're a central location, we're a hub for healthcare, shopping, food, government. One other advantage is, of course, our proximity to the river. The Sterling Highway is a competitive advantage. It provides access to all other, the other parts of the peninsula. People are coming through Soldotna. We also have a strong workforce, proximity to the Kenai Airport, proximity to the National Wildlife Refuge, our land, or I should say, our property taxes are low. So we have a number of competitive advantages that this study, I think, more or less acknowledged and identified. And of course, there was the demand for land uses was looked at, and I do want to share that with you. So this is from the market analysis. It's on page 30 of your plan. And what it shows is, with those red arrows, that retail, residential, and lodging all exhibited moderate to strong market potential and could be viable uses. So again, this is measuring where people are spending their money and whether the money is coming into the city or going out of the city for these types of uses. What we found is that there's demand for 4 to 5 restaurants, 2 to 3 boutique type clothing or accessory stores. We see that there's enough households earning over $75,000 to generate demand for approximately 180 townhome units and 85 apartment units. Over the intermediate term, hospitality could be a viable use, and here we're talking about lodging. So if the conditions improve where we've got some of these amenities, it's very possible that the market will very much improve for additional lodging places. Right now, the study showed that there was demand, or the demand could be filled for another 65 rooms. And we prefer to have those 65 rooms in Soldotna if we could, rather than somewhere else. So again, this information sheds light on what uses might be competitive as the city plans its future development. The land use recommendations for the first phase of this plan are based on this information in the market study and what we found out in the feasibility analysis. And the feasibility, what we found is current rents do not support mixed use or multifamily development. So this is looking at the here and now. This is looking at today. That's not looking at 5 years or 10 years or 20 years down. Our plan does, but this market, the development feasibility is using information that exists today. So average observed rents on the peninsula, and even as far as Anchorage, are less than $2 per square foot for recent construction of multifamily and mixed use. Most of the observed comparable developments are achieving rents closer to $1.50 per square foot. So assuming that rents in this range, continue right now without help, mixed use and multifamily aren't currently feasible. Townhomes, however, are more feasible, especially with, if land was lower in cost. So if you compare townhomes to multifamily, townhomes are substantially more feasible. Average observed sale prices for new construction townhomes are around $250 to $325 per square foot in Soldotna, Kenai, and Anchorage. And as I mentioned earlier, a hotel could be feasible, but would need some additional enhancements, like the riverfront views. And then the other important pieces for those restaurants are earning some additional dollars through things like restaurants, bars, those types of being able to offer those types of amenities. And then the last thing I have there is city participation phasing will be necessary to stimulate desired development and ensure affordability and accessibility for Soldotna residents. So that's one thing that we talked about quite a bit in with the first 40 feet and with the council and with you guys at those joint meetings and at some of our meetings with property owners is how important it is for the city to be taking an active role in this process for it to be successful. So again, this plan is a 20-year vision. It includes a development summary, and what it calls for over the next 20 years are enhanced existing uses, improved riverfront access, bookend plazas. We talked about some of these things, new streets that foster pedestrian uses, parks, trails. Those are the basics. And really the concept is to build upon our existing commercial uses along the corridor. We have these hubs that we've identified, like the Kobuk hub and the Bridge hub. We know we've got these little nodes that are already doing very well, and if we can build around those and expand those, we feel we can be successful. So this is the build out, 20 years, what it might look like. It'll be fun for all you guys who are still on the commission in 20 years to bring this back out and say, yeah, it looks just like that now. What I'd like to do is really take a look more closely at each of these areas within this 20-year build out. So the first one we'll look at is the Bridgehead Plaza and Park. And this one includes the Bridgehead Plaza, the Riverfront Park, really being focal points for the retail, dining, entertainment proposed along River Street. So it really acts as like a central gathering space. Not too different from Soldotna Creek Park. So we could do things like events, programmed activities, outdoor dining. You'll have river access, you'll have views. So where it says Bridgehead Plaza there with the little arrow, so that's this plaza area. And as it's designed, the buildings in part fall along River Street, but then also curve inward and face the plaza itself, so that you have these shops and stores looking onto the plaza or looking out into the street. The other buildings would, again, try to take advantage of that plaza and have that as the core focus area. And this is an idea of what that plaza could look like. So if you look off to the left, you can see the bridge and you can see the river. And where it says park-oriented storefronts, so that's, again, the building that has a little L-shape bend to it, and part of it is facing the street, part of it towards the plaza. The Kobuk hub is a larger mix of not only mixed use, but also housing. So what you see here is, especially along River Street would be your mixed use. So you'd have a lower level commercial and upper level apartments, condos, whatever type of housing that would be most appropriate.
Is that when you said multifamily wasn't possible, but townhomes were, now you're saying above that it's all apartments or condos or whatever, is, I want to understand better your, can I interrupt you and ask questions?
Absolutely.
Okay. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, one of the things that we're doing, or that this plan recommends, is a regional housing analysis.
Mm-hmm.
Because as we saw in the market study, the only certain types of housing right now are really penciling out. And and that also gets to the phasing of this plan. So there are certain things we know we can build now, like the townhome concept. We know there's a demand. We could build that now. We could put in some infrastructure. That type of that type of development should incentivize and catalyze additional development, where it may change, once the road's in and once the sewer and water in, that'll change the formula as far as those apartments and the future development down the road. It'll lessen that cost because that's in place. the market may change. But getting back to my first point, what we want to do is make sure we understand the local housing market. We certainly don't want to build a bunch of townhouses or multifamily homes if that's not what we need. We'll be relying, and you'll see this in the a little later on, one of the things that we want to take on quickly is a partnered regional analysis where we can work with the borough and work with the city of Kenai to find out what type of housing we need, what type of housing we perhaps have more than enough of. How are we doing on things like housing for elderly, for disabled, housing for low income? There's a lot of things to look at, which I think will guide us.
Mhm.
This is what that Kobuk area might look like on the ground. So where you see, let's see here, River Street Park Trails and Overlook. That's what, and the River Street in front of it. This is the view. So the park would be to the left. You'd be looking down River Street here. The building types, you know, are up to us, whatever types of standards we want to apply, but this gives you an idea of what that might look like on the ground. And then the Binkley Birch Street Hub, Soldotna Creek Park. So, so the idea here with this upper plaza and a lower plaza is really to enhance and work off of the success of Soldotna Creek Park. What we'd like to do is, and here this would be looking at the river again is on your left. The market hall is at the back, and behind the market hall would be Aspen Hotel. So you're basically in the park looking downstream is this view. And as you can see, what it would do is connect these two. You would have an opportunity for a plaza, could be summer, winter type thing. You'd have a lower plaza that would allow you to get closer to the river. And in particular is the specifics on the market hall itself. This is proposed as a 3-story. Not sure if that's going to work. One of the items that is included in the plan would be some further analysis of the public market and what we could support here, what's needed. Do we want to include things like meeting rooms, community rooms? Do we want to include space for the Chamber of Commerce and the Visitor Center? Do we want to have an anchor tenant is one concept that some of them have. So there's a lot still to consider, but again, the thing that everybody really was excited about is that opportunity to have what we have on Wednesdays in the summer, to have that year-round in this building, and have the ability to bring people together, get together with friends, go to the local vendors, spend a little money, enjoy the views, and have a nice Saturday morning.
Is that fairly early in the timeline? I'm sorry, I know it's in here, but I figured you might know off the top of your head.
The study is fairly early, and we've got a slide of the timeline
Yeah,
coming up.
okay.
That's right. Yep, that's the Davis Block site. So you can see it would include 30,000 square foot market hall, a parking structure, and a lower and upper plaza.
John, how would that relate to cause on the other end? Fairly out of what that means that
It does, yep. Yeah, it really, the other end is more of the, I guess you would call it the traditional downtown concept where you can, walk along the streets and shop and you'll have a concentration of residents living there that will make that area very active and very, hopefully successful for the businesses that locate there. Whereas on this end, this is really designed as more of a, really designed to take advantage of Soldotna Creek Park and what's been so successful there. But as you have seen, when you look at the overall plan for this whole riverfront area, really it's that western or the downstream end, upstream end, downstream end. Hinkle's property. And that area offers the most opportunity for a traditional style Main Street, or in this case, River Street. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of unanswered questions with that piece of land. So the next thing here real quickly is the redevelopment components. We're gonna have to look at some things. Caitlin and I were discussing some of these things earlier today that we will have to make revisions to Title 17, our zoning code, and to our street ordinances, or street design standards. We'll have to create standards for mixed-use zoning, building heights, parking standards, and ground floor uses. And what that does is it really offers some level of certainty, not only for us, that we ensure that we get what we want, but investors know that if they sink money into this thing, they know what's gonna be there in the future, that they're not taking a shot in the dark and just crossing their fingers. So this is just a slide of those districts, what it might look like, with the mixed-use district being on the downstream side, the park district on the upstream, and then the Sterling district would be another set of regulations for those auto-orientated type uses along the Sterling Highway. We don't own anything except Soldotna Creek Park and Davis Block. And it's not our intent, or it was never our intent when we started this to try to buy up all the land. That's what we know we're gonna have to do, is work with property owners to potentially dedicate right-of-ways, trail easements, those kinds of things. But we didn't want to create more, essentially, we didn't want to take away the opportunity for the commercial opportunities here. You know, our goal going into this was, how do we take advantage of these underutilized parcels? How can we bring the people to the river? And this offers that, and it's going to take their, the landowners working with us. We don't have the resources to buy Gary Hinkle's, no offense, Linda, your auto dealership, or which one is, Chuck Kim's land. There's a lot of land for sale in that area, and we just don't have the resources. We're gonna have to work with people. Yes, yeah, it does. We're not gonna make anybody quit their business or anything. It's, again, we're gonna try to work with folks. And, the issues, are an example of folks that initially were, they said, I don't know if I like this. And, if they don't want to work with us, if they want to keep what they got, that's fine. Our standards, our plan may change, our standards may change with them. But we're not calling for their, for their uses to be changed or their buildings to be eliminated.
The city does have some precedent though in buying property, it's done that a couple times. Davis Block and different things. So I would assume that there would be at least a couple pieces of land that the city would hope to buy or hope to find the resources to buy.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be off the table. It would all have to come together, the right piece of land, the right price, and a strategy also. So all the new streets are on private property, so that would all have to be dedicated, and we'd have to work with property owners.
Next to buildings or not buildings?
They consider where existing buildings are. So like River Street, you can see the outline of the Aspen or assisted living. You can see the outline of the building on that slide. And so I believe there may be one building, I don't recall, that is owned by Chuck Kim that may be actually in the right of way. It's the older roller rink.
The one thing that city normally has is streets are in sewer.
Mhm.
So that then creates the environment. And again, it also shows private.
Absolutely.
We should buy some.
Absolutely. We briefly talked about what we were looking for in our streets: walkable, safe, attractive, well-lit. This is a typical section, what River Street might look like as you're walking down the street. Little narrower travel lanes, on-street parking, wide sidewalks, and some green spaces.
Our landscaping bed's currently 6 feet. Got 6 foot.
Required
Required?
landscaping on private property
Oh, okay.
is a 10-foot bed.
Okay, I'm just like, how do we make these things live? I want those trees.
Yeah, no, that is the challenge that we
Yeah.
talked about throughout here. This looks great.
Yeah, we might,
How
just
do-
for Alaska, we might have to
How
make
do we,
those 4-foot beds a little longer.
Yep.
Bigger.
how do we find a species of tree that doesn't mind getting buried in the snow?
Yeah. I like the on-street parking though.
I have a slide on that. I have a slide on that. I'll show you all the different types of parking that are available, and I think we have the counts in there. This is just another view of the different types of amenities that could be provided along River Street or any of these streets. Our development strategy, this serves as our guide to and a roadmap to navigating our development or redevelopment of this area. Hopefully it'll foster collaboration. It'll get us to what we had envisioned at the start of this process. As I noted earlier, financial viability really is hampered by the prospects of mixed use and multifamily developments that, having those happen right away is not financially viable. However, with what was stated earlier by Dennis, you know, the idea of investing in critical infrastructure, including streets, sidewalks, trails, and whatnot. It should make it more attractive for development to occur here and hopefully bring, with that infrastructure already provided, hopefully bring that, some of those costs down. There's also, we recognize that if we do want to do housing, we may have to be a partner in that. We may have to pony up somehow. We may have to apply for grants and work with different federal agencies to make that happen. And that's in the plan as well as identifying those pots of money and those opportunities.
Yeah, I remember Jason saying that about like mixed use right away is actually a good idea because land is only going to get more and more expensive, especially after we put that infrastructure, the roads in. That's when land will become even more valuable. So if the city is going to and should partner and get some grants or help provide for mixed use affordable housing, basically so that and if I'm remembering correctly, so that the businesses that are already there's a bunch of businesses already there who are struggling with workforce. So if you could provide some housing right away to show proof of concept, but I feel like the city can only do that if it's like one of the first things that we do before the land prices go up exponentially once we put in these sexy streets and water and sewer and everything.
You need to win the lottery.
Wow. We need to just win some grants maybe.
We do provide in the development strategy a number of, or a menu of catalyst sites. And some are time sensitive and need to commence sooner than others, while others require more study and coordination, like I mentioned. And what we've got is an action plan for each of those areas and the sequencing of things too. So I'll give you an example here. So for the Riverside, this is phase one. So we're talking about the next 5 years. What's being recommended is to acquire public right-of-way, design and construct River Street. And this is specifically looking at the Riverside piece, which is, again, this corner. So these items in the action plan, it talks about what needs to be done, who's doing it, and how, and then the timeline and the order of implementation. And this is what's envisioned in phase one. You know, if we do build those streets, if we do encourage the townhome concepts, the mixed use concept, and the apartment type complex, this is what a phase one might look like for that area. Then likewise for the Kobach, same type of strategy. Acquiring rights away is, of course, one of the most vital things we can do. Potentially acquire a housing site or development agreement. And phase one would look like this. So here's at the bottom, Aspen Creek, assisted living, River Street in front of it, mixed use. And you can see this lower area on that big apartment building is tinted red. So that means mixed use wraps around that. No, the bowling alley is at the corner of Enhanced Lovers Lane and River Street, where those other buildings are.
That's vacant, right? That new street and the apartments are all vacant land.
So that's correct. So that's Chuck Kim's. There's currently a driveway that goes in that same location, up to the old RV park. Yep.
You know, what strikes me, John, is, you know, we talked about this, we really need a housing country. You know, I mean, that could be a development plan, but we need a time to look at housing, bring all the players together. Yeah. That would be the convener. Bring the players together, who's doing what? I mean, right now, I think what catches my hands Obviously, this is going to be said, this is so, affordable housing. Who's the top people started out? I mean, what if you have a loose classification, it might be the elderly. Would the elderly be, appropriate? One, typically, a lot of elderly don't have vehicles. So you're downtown, you're going to take a taxi, or you're going to take cars, or you're going to take the other thing. But the impact of vehicles is diminished if that's part of it. Maybe that's too far. We think we're getting ahead of ourselves, but it seems to me when we say affordable housing, that has a lot of rabbit trails. Because really, if it's premium property, affordable housing is maybe not the best, not that we don't need it. That's the best piece of that, right? Relationship, overall objective.
Yeah, and the other thing is that we're trying to focus on is this concept of an activity center of people in the downtown, people that will not only shop, but potentially work at these shops. And so I think what we're going to end up with probably is a mix. And we've seen some good examples of affordable housing in Anchorage, actually. But I think we're going to end up with a mix, trying to provide a little bit of everything. And first, we're going to have to figure out what the market will support. And like you said, do that analysis with the right partners for housing and make sure that we're identifying the right type of housing in the right location.
Yeah, you're thinking about how people housing finance corporation. They invited to understand what we're trying to do and how their programs, their constituency. I mean, the other major project that's in the vision, I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
So they clearly need someone.
Yeah. And they are one of several of the organizations, HUD and the KNIGHTC. There's a section in this plan that lists potential partners, and they're identified as, and we've already had some conversations. Yeah, you're not there yet? So, yeah, there's a lot of work ahead of us, once this gets adopted.
But I think a housing task force might be one of the steps to start having a conversation. Who's out there?
Right.
What do they think?
Yeah, especially since the property that is one of the highest on our list to change is currently has a bunch of residents on it, and they will be going someplace in next summer. But yeah, housing I think has come up so many times.
Just to know what the landscape is.
Yeah.
Who's thinking about whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's. Binkley Birch, so same kind of concept, the strategy is laid out. This is what a phase one for Binkley Birch might look like. Really, the initial investment is on expanding what is called States Avenue up there. That's if you look at that, our existing park, we've got the driveway that goes through the front. And what this does is it expands that concept and pulls it all the way through. So it would go then past the Watershed Forum's office, all the way out to 47th Street, connect, and create, again, what we're trying to create is the one-off here along in both situations, or on both ends. And this would create that. It would also, in this second or third phase, continue on right through to Binkley Circle. So it would go between Napa and the Aspen Hotel. But this particular phase would do a few things. It would construct the lower plaza. It would enhance and expand States Avenue, and it's also suggesting to pave and stripe the current unpaved area that we've got at Davis Block.
It's concepts like this that I know that we're talking about this area in particular, but that make me want to say, and across the street too, especially because for the Unity Trail, you know, I never would, you know, ride my bike onto the riverside of the Sterling Highway. I would want this safe, designated one road over street, probably the you know, either Wilson or, you know, that's these are the kinds of improvements that make me want to say, like, let's apply some of the concepts that we're advocating for in this district right next door.
Time-sensitive projects. There's a number of things that were identified that we know are crucial to ensuring that we can move this forward. Of course, plan adoption, staffing to implement. So what we're talking about there is making sure that we have the staffing resources to take these recommendations forward. And what else here?
Did commercial core district get adopted yet?
No.
Wouldn't that be like first step is making sure that no future developments happen in like a month?
Yeah, that are gonna basically put a huge wrench in
2030
this.
is great, but the issues want to put a bunch of storage units on. Kind of wondering, like, I think I heard about it in November, December, I asked, but what's the current kind of timeframe on the commercial core from?
I'll share with you. Let me see if I can get to it.
Yeah, that would.
I don't
track from this, I think it's all
Yeah.
kind of tied together.
Let me point you to the right page here.
If I may interject just for a moment, I am having difficulty hearing some of the commissioner comments. Can we turn on the mics?
This
asked
sure,
about
I am
commercial
too.
Sorry about
Thank
that.
you.
Yep. Yeah. So just to recap, I asked John about the commercial core district where we were with city council and putting that in our code. And he's going to answer that.
Thank you.
And so what I would refer you to is page 119 of your plan. If you can look on your planning document that's in your packet. And what we have there is a schedule. And there's 5 items in particular that are in year one. One is to hire an implementation manager. Another is to do some design work for that States Avenue. The third is to do an update to city streets and maintenance standards. So that's a code change. And then fourth is Title 17 code update. That's where your changes to the zoning would occur. And one of the things that's recommended in this plan are a set of specific regulations for creating this mixed use area. If we want to have that mixed use area, we're gonna have to have things that we didn't consider when we did that core area. Things like building setbacks, building heights. What they're recommending in this is a different height standard on one side of the street than the other. Ground floor uses and what types of ground floor uses. So there's a number of changes and things that we would have to reconsider. So if this plan is adopted and we want to get there, the work that we've done is a starting point. We've got the basics down, but we're going to have to add to it. There's going to be more things that are going to be necessary to address it.
Is there a way, I'm a perfectionist at heart and I just, sometimes it bites me, but is there any benefit in moving forward that amendment and adoption of Title 17 in parts so that basically we can address, we'll need to have discussions about heights and setbacks and ground floor usage and stuff, but we've already had all of the discussion for just the basic uses that we want to allow and make conditional. Can we move that forward so that something doesn't happen in the next few months that
Stopgap.
that basically makes it incredibly harder to implement this beautiful plan?
It's possible. There would have to be some work done to it because in this plan, in that appendix that I gave to you, there's different land uses that are also recommended than what we've recommended as a commission. So we'd have to bring those together, make sure that they make sense and that we're comfortable with it. Another option is a moratorium. I don't know what the council's appetite would be for something like that. I also don't know if our plan is to update and amend our code in year one. Does it pay to develop these set of standards for only a year and then switch?
I wouldn't be switching it. I would see it building upon.
You adopt it and then amend it, like as needed, but you get the groundwork in and it's essentially a stopgap for anything happening that that's gonna mess up this plan to a point, but also, I mean, it's not like it's gonna take away from the current landowners, but maybe it's an opportunity for them to now dig deeper into and say, what is this plan about anyways? Oh, you want to put roads in? Okay, that would give more frontage to maybe commercial buildings for me and I was going to put storage units, but now that I know about this and what you guys are planning, you know what I mean? I think that it would bring attention to it for the current owners. And then also it would make it so that people aren't putting schools, churches, things of that nature that we didn't have in the original plan that we already brainstormed and you know what I mean?
I do. I just don't want to, I'm not going to make any promises. And the reason I say that is it's important for this project to get our project manager on board to help us sort out what's going to happen when, and I don't think it would do that. It would be a disservice to them and to the city to start going down one path when we find that the other path should be this way. And so I would want them on board as part of this process to move it forward. And that would be my recommendation at this point. But I understand your frustration because I said the same thing to the previous city manager was, boy, I'm worried about this stuff selling. But it's one of those things where you also there's a development community out there too that is affected by these regulations, and it's walking a fine line.
Yeah, because I think I think it's called the Bridge Plaza. If he's going to sell that or get rid of it, I mean, who's to say? Whoever buys it is probably going to want to build something pretty quick or do whatever they bought it for. You know what I mean? Like I think that
one that property though is is burdened with a lot of problems.
Mhm.
And.
Ground problems, yeah.
Environmental problems, yeah.
Mhm.
And he's been trying to sell it for a long time. I would doubt that anything happens on that
Mhm.
property quickly, but I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's got a buyer in his back pocket that's ready to go, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to invite the city manager to make
Oh,
a pertinent comment. It feels like you have something to contribute to.
Well,
this
I was
discussion.
gonna wait till the city manager report to comment on this, but since we're here now, as far as the new zoning, the new code language, it's going to be extensive, and it's also unlike anything we have here in Alaska. I can say that it's common law 48, but this is brand new for Alaska. Anchorage might have a little, but this is cutting edge, and it's going to take a lot more time into it. And some of it, I don't want to say may conflict with some of the work that you've already done, but it would be really good for this area to have it comprehensive, done comprehensively, which would mean the new language that needs to be adopted. But it's pretty good. It's really good language. Definitely out of the box thinking.
going.
I'm just gonna stay here.
For success, like we stated earlier, we're gonna have to invest. We're gonna have to be flexible. We're gonna have to staff and fund the different projects as they come forward. It's not gonna happen overnight. Some projects are gonna catalyze other projects. We already talked about this, but the market hall deserves additional study, as does the concept of a regional housing analysis. Creating an 18-hour activity center is key to success. And if we're going to create an activity center, the thing that's going to create it is the housing. That's what's going to make it happen. We just talked about regulation changes are necessary, and again, the studies. And I did want to, is this the one? This is the one Dennis asked about parking. So what you see here are 3 different types of parking he's identified. You've got public parking on street. You've got private parking off street, and that's indicated by those orange blobs or yellow, whatever color that is. And a lot of that parking is to the interior of the buildings. So the buildings are right up on the road. The parking is on the interior spaces. And then there's the public parking that's identified by the gray and the P sign there, or icon. And then last, there's a recommendation for doing some parking along the DOT right-of-way. And that's outlined in the plan as well, a different way, because we've got excess right-of-way there. There's opportunities to create actual public parking there and a setback walking area. And let's see if I included one of the recommendations here. A uniform standard of 1 space per 400. And sharing parking through dedication along all parking in the project area. That's the concept, Dennis. And that is what I've got, but and that went much longer than I thought, so I apologize. And I do want to hear your thoughts, ideas, comments. Are we, there's no surprises here from what we've seen in the past. It's the same concepts, same ideas. It's just finally all packaged together and put in front of you in a plan.
It's a lot of work, and it's very exciting. Is the Title 17 code update include updating our parking requirements included in that?
It would.
Yeah.
Yep, there's some specific parking changes that are recommended in the plan.
Yeah. And I think, so for folks who are excited about the Title 17 code update, our municipal code, which we, that was part of this commercial core district that we drafted. I would say just start at the back of the plan and work forward, because Appendix E is the draft mixed use zoning. And so perhaps that's a really good place to spend our energy before, in this process. But I think that would be a good place for us to look to see, like, how can we apply the concepts that we discussed for this commercial core district and apply it to this this code update. And I guess for the Title 17 code update, I think what makes this commercial core district appealing to me is that it's actually does, to me, more authentically map the commercial core of Soldotna, and not just this very exciting future development area. It kind of goes over across the street. It's the more full commercial core district. So I don't know, when we update our code for Title 17 code update that's proposed in year 1, what I would love to see is somehow that update does not just apply to the Riverfront redevelopment area, but that it also allows us to create a downtown core that doesn't just depend on this magically happening the way that we envision, because we know that it won't. There will be lots of good things that happen, but I don't want there to just be the pockets of entrepreneurial activity only happening in this area. I think that it will and needs to be encouraged in these other commercial areas of the city. So I would like the update to somehow connect to or apply to the other areas, the other commercial zone. So much good stuff. Oh my gosh, I have like 5 million comments, but I will not. I'll just let other people talk.
Yeah, thank you, John. That was really great. And it's exciting. Like, I hope it goes exactly like that. No, it's a very comprehensive plan, and I know there was a 10,000 hours behind it, and it's exciting. And hopefully this body can be a part of it as it goes forward throughout the years, in one way or another. Lots of good ideas from everybody on here so far. So I know that the meetings we've had have affected this in positive ways. So I'm in support of it 100%.
Yeah, I just feel like I'm with Caitlin on wanting to work on the commercial core. I don't know when it's appropriate for us. Do we need to have work sessions, or are you wanting us to hold off because you're wanting someone else to kind of take charge of it because we're not writing the language? But I just feel like this last year we've had several kind of things come up that we're like, we're sitting here, we are supposed to be able to plan and do our zone things, and then these things come in and you're like, oh, we can't because our code says that. Like I feel like we're missing all the opportunities, and it's tiresome. So anyway, I would be very happy to participate in trying to get something in place. I do think this document is amazing, and as property owners, it may be hard for those property owners to believe, but it will radically increase their property values as these things start happening. But when you're a property owner who doesn't feel like there are a lot of opportunities and someone comes and wants to do something not so glamorous, you may just be like, yeah, fine. It's been sitting here for 30 years. Just do something with it. And then we end up with storage units or another garage or something, because the timing wasn't right or whatever. So anyway, I would like to participate in trying to support this happening in the way that it appears here. So.
Yeah, I think so many of these things pop out, supporting local businesses and encouraging entrepreneurship. You know, this has been stated in our 2030 comp plan, our downtown, you know, plan, this plan. We keep saying that that's our vision. But if we, you know, if we want that vision, we have to align our code to this, to that stated vision, or we won't get the vision. I think what we'll get is whomever can afford the properties at the moment, you know, and that actually is not what we say that we want. And so I guess more specifically, for those downtown areas that we're proposing, you know, there is a strategy in there for like lower cost access to capital, to promote local businesses. Like, it's not just the code updates, right? There's other
right.
strategies. And so I would love for that strategy, you know, providing lower cost access so that locally owned independent businesses can actually play in this area and not just the corporate players who have the capital right away. We definitely want to encourage local business because that makes our town so much more interesting and more vibrant, you know, keeps dollars local. It's better for the economy, all the reasons. But I think if we could wrap that strategy proposed into like a bigger strategy for maintaining affordability for local businesses in our city, and I think that's what we've been wanting this whole time, is like, what's our strategy for maintaining affordability for local businesses? So, and then, yeah, others sure have comments.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, that's. I can't remember what year it is, but it's on our CIP to develop a master plan for those Centennial grounds where we've got the sports center, the new field station, the ball fields, the rodeo grounds, the campgrounds, the boat launch. How do we want them all to tie together in the future, and what's the optimal use of that? It's definitely something that we've been thinking about. And how do you get in there and out of there? How do you make a left turn?
Zip line, it's cheaper than a bridge. That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
John, if it was adopted, when would year one start? Would that be this year we would get the manager hired?
I can't tell you when that will happen, but I can tell you the administration would be going forward with the recommendation to city council to allow us to do that. Yep, that would happen right away.
And that would be out of this department. It would, the hire would be out of planning and zoning?
Yeah, well, what we don't know at this point, but what we're favoring is actually someone outside the city, not, like a consultant,
Oh, I see.
someone in that respect.
Okay.
Because we're viewing this as, something that would potentially go for example, 3 years. Are we getting where we want to go? Do we want to change? Do we want to do something a little different? Do we need to bring it back inside the city? But initially, we're thinking a consultant would handle that rather than creating a new position within the city. Not that we couldn't use one.
Well, that's what I was wondering. I mean, that's what I was thinking about was if it was going to be like another staff position for you when they're not doing this. I mean, they could be helping out with you already the needs that are needed in your department, as well as if it's somebody local. I just feel like local owners would respond better than somebody in California or Florida who calls them once every 3 weeks and just talks about stuff on the phone. But then we got to flip the bill to fly them all the way up here 10 times this year. And it's like, what if we just hired somebody? Like,
Or even complimentary. I think it'd be good to hire both. It just, there's so many
Mhm.
associated activities that we want and that we have wanted for a long time, like the housing task force and like this stopgap update to not just this district, but our commercial core. So how do we make some of these things happen that there currently just isn't capacity for? It's like, I know that you want these things too.
Mhm.
But again and again, this body, I think makes reasonable requests, has, based on presentations or conditional uses that come across our desk, and there just isn't time. And I think it's a disservice to the city to not give you another staff.
yeah, I mean, putting
I'm
two
not gonna
hats on
argue.
somebody's head is always,
Yeah.
if we're hiring them
If we
directly,
can, if we can.
it's going to
Yeah.
be cheaper for us, and we put another hat on their head when they're not working on this. And you could supplement their income, another staff position for you at the same time as this project. I think would be a good use of funds, just my opinion.
I'll just briefly share, is one of our concerns actually of having it be a city staff person is they're gonna get pulled in every direction. And
Mhm.
if this is something that we want to actually see happen, then our feeling is that it should be someone whose sole, responsibility is to implement the plan and make all those contacts, make all those phone calls, visit all those business owners and
Like a
and-
consultant,
but
yeah.
certainly, I totally agree. Someone local would be
In
Received
would be
better.
essential. Yeah.
Mhm.
In addition.
Yeah.
Yeah, did you want additional comment? If we have additional comments,
You can, provide those to me if you
okay.
want, and I will share them with council.
Great.
Um,
Yeah, I have a bunch more, but I'll save
Okay.
us.
Yeah, I'll put together some type of document that will share comments received from
Mhm.
the commission and from anybody else that submits them,
Mhm.
so that they have that when they are looking at it next week.
And I didn't want to keep the folks on the phone. Do you have any comments for John or recommendations? If you don't, that's fine.
This is Charlene. It looks great. Thanks.
Yeah, it looks great.
All right. If there are no other commission comments or questions for staff, let's call for the vote, and this is to recommend.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah. Everyone left you.
I gotta.
You're trying to do it all. Here you
I
go.
don't know how to do this. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
I guess I could call
Commissioner
for the
Turner.
vote.
Yes.
Commissioner Toutbest,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith McCalley,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Burton,
Yes.
Commissioner Murray,
Yes.
Commissioner Vadler.
Yes.
That is 7 yes votes.
All right, moving
Motion
on.
Passes.
Thank you. Thank you for doing all the things, John. Our next item is election of planning commission chair and vice chair. Already again? Didn't we just do this? We did this already. We like literally just did this, right?
I nominate Caitlin.
No, but I thought, didn't we just do this?
I second.
Aw.
You've been here long enough, yeah, to know, you better act quickly.
I maintain that if anyone wants to do this, just let me know at any time. Who wants to be vice chair? I nominate
Dennis Murray, this Charlene.
Second.
Who did you say?
Who is?
Dennis Murray.
Oh, sneaky, Charlene. Yeah. Dennis Murray didn't object, so I feel like it's a done deal. All right. Are there any objections, honestly? Hearing none, we've got Commissioner Vadla as the chair and Commissioner Murray as the vice chair for Planning and Zoning Commission. Yeah, thank you, guys. All right, public comments without prior notice. Anybody? Nope. I think we can move on because we have the mayor here and the city manager who have stayed with us all the way until 8:30. Thanks, guys. Would you humor us and come forward and give us a report, Mayor Whitney?
And his first meeting is 3 hours long plus.
But isn't it so exciting?
Cutting into his sleep time. But I want to thank everyone for their hard work. And I can tell you that this is not going to go on a shelf like a lot of studies do in government. We're going to do something with it. It may take time to implement it, but it's going to happen. May not be in my time, like closer to Caitlin's time than, but it's going forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, City Manager Bauer.
Thank you. And I just really wanted to thank you for all of your work. I know planning commissions, I heard Dennis say, like making the sausage, and it's really appreciated that it's made at this level so the council doesn't have to make the sausage there. That sometimes they do, but they, with your work, then they don't have to make all the sausage. So I really do appreciate it. And I also wanted to add that I did have a conversation, I relayed this to Don, but I had a conversation with Mayor Machicki about the current fire station property. And while it doesn't say that the land returns to the city because it's not on the deed, I figure it wouldn't hurt to ask if they would give it back. Well, they're not giving it back. But he did assure me that the property is going to return to commercial. It isn't going to be retained by the borough. They will retain it for a period of time for storage while they're building, but he does intend it to go to commercial. So that's from him. And I'm really looking forward to working with you guys for this project, Riverfront redevelopment, as well as all the others. But Riverfront redevelopment, like I said, there's going to be some really cool zoning code language. I love code language. So for me, it's just like so super cool because it's different for Alaska. So why not be first?
Yeah.
And, John talked about the mixed use. I'm not giving up. We internally have been talking about, we're not giving up on that concept. I think it's perfect for this area. It doesn't pencil out right now financially, but it will at some point. So we're not giving up. And of course, we'll pursue any and all grant opportunities with the adoption of the plan by the city council that provides us, the ability to move forward. And until it's adopted, we really don't have that ability. Water, sewer, through the Build Back Better Act, the BIL, and the other funding mechanisms, what we found in Alaska, that it is not available to any municipality for expansion and extension. It's really only available for replacement with a really heavy focus on municipalities that don't have water, which does make sense that that would be the focus. So hopefully in the future, there'll be other opportunities because as you stated, that's where we shine, water, sewer, roads. That's our main core. So we'll continue to pursue all opportunities for really all areas of the city, everywhere in the city. So that's all I really had. Just thank you.
Thank you. And Council Member Hutchins, would you like to make a report?
Well, I would like to say thank you for passing the conditional use permit. Since the mid-50s, that has been the core for our volunteer fire departments, for our city hall, for the community center. And I understand noise can be an issue, but I will tell you that the helicopter for medevacs flies over my house every time, whether it's 4 times a night or 1 time a night. So I look at that as saying somebody's getting the help they need. So I am really pleased that you went ahead and passed that. And as for the Riverfront, I'm excited to see what happens with it, but I will tell you, just like the Soldotna Creek Park, it took many, many years and a lot of hard work. So it is something that I look forward to seeing, probably a part of, but I'm happy with all the work that has been done. And it was nice sitting in on this meeting. Thank you.
Oh, gosh. Yep. Thank you for staying so long. Director of Economic Development and Planning, John, doing all the things tonight. Do you have a report for us?
Yeah, I really just have 2 things. At the last council meeting, 2 items that you recommended approval on were approved by the council. And that was changes to the daycare code, where daycares now in residential areas will require an administrative permit rather than a conditional use permit. And then the second one was the changes to the multifamily zoning district lot size requirements. On that one, you recommended that, let's see here, that we standardize the size of the lots and so that you could essentially have a higher density of multifamily versus what we have now, which steps up the size of the lots based on the number of bedrooms. There was one other change to that. Oh, duplexes. The other thing it did is it standardized the duplex requirement. So in one district, if it takes 8,400 square feet, in all districts, it takes 8,400 square feet. So it standardized that, made that a requirement. And I think that's it. Next month, you will get our annual report. Normally, that would have come to you at this meeting, but you figured you probably didn't want to go to 9:30, so we'll get it to you next time. Thanks.
All right, maybe we'll start with newest first. Do you have any comments? New commissioner?
No, very interesting. I'm glad I was appointed by the mayor and look forward to more meetings. I'm a newbie, so I read everything John sent me, everything. So, yeah, I probably have 8 hours in preparing for this meeting, plus watching last month's meeting on video. So yeah, I'm committed. Maybe I should be committed now. So, no, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for serving. It's important. That's how I'm going to recruit new commissioners, is we make some of the sausage. Yeah.
You like sausage?
Maybe, yeah. I'm just excited. Yeah. And then maybe we'll go to Charlene and Mark, if you, let's see.
This is Charlene. Yeah, thanks everybody, and thanks to the staff, and thanks Dennis being vice chair, and have a good week. Thanks.
Thanks, Charlene. Mark?
Thank you for all the work, everyone, that it was put into this, and congratulations, Chair Caitlin Vodlin, Vice Chair Dennis Murray. So, thank you very much.
It's gonna be you one of these years, so get ready. Watch your
We'll
back.
see.
All right, maybe Tom.
Yep. Yeah, just for the record, I voted for the fire department, so I'm glad that we're getting a new one. I think they needed it. And like I said before, I'm happy that we took an extra meeting to get all the ideas out there. Nobody was afraid to hold back their opinions, planning, everything, thoughts, and making sure we're doing the right thing moving forward, because it's a 50-year decision. I mean, that's a big deal. Anytime we make a 50-year decision. So, yeah, thanks for everybody on that. And then welcome, Gary. And thanks for extending, Caitlin. And Dennis, thank you. And welcome back, Mark. And that's it. Thanks, guys.
So first of all, thanks to John and staff for all the work. I mean, it's amazing to have a document 870 pages long. I don't know. Could take, and you read it all, Gary?
There's lots of
Oh,
pictures.
my
There's
goodness.
lots of pictures.
Do you want to be vice chair? But I think it's a major step forward. Obviously, there are lots of crooks in the road going forward. Thanks to our manager for, at least reaching out to the mayor of the borough, and maybe our mayor reached out as well to see if they would be gentlemen. I would have thought, since we gave him, I think we gave the property to him for $10, as I remember.
We could buy it back
Or, and I don't remember, someone told me. But then again, the building, who knows what will happen, but it's good that they're going to make it commercial and not be institutional, consistent with what Caitlin said and Jenny said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exponential. So thanks to, well, it's good to welcome Mark back, and Gary, welcome. Mark, thank you for joining us again. And yeah, Caitlin, always a great meeting.
Thank you. Yeah, I've made lots of comments already, so I'll keep it brief. I'm so excited that you are keeping that idea of some sort of mixed housing going in as proof of concept, because I think that the workforce who already works in those businesses that exist already, they are struggling to find people who can live close enough, who maybe don't need a car. And also, like, that point was great about typically folks who don't have a car are younger folks who are working jobs in service, and older folks who can't drive. So I think that's a perfect area to cater to the housing needs of those two populations. Just anecdotally, that's what I hear we need a lot more of, is that kind of housing. And I think earmarking that land for that use, while it's cheap, it's never going to be cheaper than it is today. So I think figuring out how to make that happen is in our interest. And the firehouse going in is a good move. It underscores my desire to make sure that in some way we do what our stated job as a commission is, which is, I think, to plan for all of the uses that we want in our city, and make sure that our code and the steps that we have outlined in our plans are getting us to our vision, and that we don't have to just sit back and watch as things happen that aren't getting us closer to our vision. I think we have a amazing track record. That comprehensive plan, the 2030, that was one of the best plans I think I've ever seen, and we actually went through step by step and checked things off. So I think we have a good track record of not just letting things sit on the shelf, and I'm excited for the steps ahead of us. So thanks for this long meeting. We are adjourned until next month. Thanks, everybody.